Welcome to the Secure CIO, the podcast for technology executives who are tasked with hiring and retaining great cybersecurity leaders. Join best-selling author Claire Pales together with industry thought leaders as they answer your questions about sourcing the right leaders, building cybersecurity teams, candidate selection, salaries, skills, and more.
Hello, I'm Claire Pales and welcome to the Secure CIO podcast. Today's guest is Vijay Krishnan. Vijay leads UniSuper's security program and strategy, including security operations, security governance, risk and compliance, security architecture and design, and identity and access management. In his role, he leads a multi-year security roadmap to reduce UniSuper's security risk, thus protecting UniSuper's members. You can read Vijay's full bio in the show notes, but for now, welcome Vijay to the podcast.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks for having me. I thoroughly enjoy talking to you and hope this conversation will be really helpful for people listening to it. And there are a lot of insights I can share. Thank you, Claire.
Excellent. So before we talk about your current work at UniSuper, I'd love to ask you about your transition from network security leadership in previous roles in your career to the head of information security, a role you're in now. So what did you do to upskill yourself to prepare for that new stage in your career?
For the last 20 years or so, I was always part of information security and network security teams and was managing both teams in the last 15 years. My technical qualifications and skills lie in network infrastructure, which gave me a very strong foundation in information security. Rightfully so, when the previous organization wanted someone to focus and dedicate to information security, and more specifically to achieve PCIDSS compliance, I was the automatic choice given the work I've done in information security and the non-technical skills that I've developed. Some of the skills I've acquired before the transition to be the head of information security is writing audit and risk and committee reports, board reports, developing information security strategy, and presenting to the board. Technical skill come natural to me, but acquiring non-technical skill was hard and I had to really work on it.
So that's a really interesting point because, coming from such a technical background and acquiring those, I guess what some people term soft skills, did you do that through the process of just learning on the job, or did you sort of do any leadership courses? Was there anything about that time that helped you to acquire those skills?
Most of the soft skills I learned, Claire, is through while working and managing network and the security teams. There was an opportunity provided by my CIO. So one of the meetings she asked me to share my insights in information security, the audit and risk team. And that's how I began my journey in terms of developing those soft skills. And the first interaction to the audit and risk committee gave me clear insights on what they are after. And the subsequent meetings, I was able to write reports for them and share and show the updates on the security and the progress we made in my previous organization. And this is a on-the-job learning. It's not, I didn't go to any course. Over time, I picked up and also, the feedback from the senior executives in the previous organization really helped me to hone those skills. And at some point in time, over the course of 2 years, I really got comfortable with those and I was able to present to the board, including sharing the information strategy to the board.
So knowing that those types of skills were going to be required of you and that they were going to need to be learnt on the job, did you always aspire to be a CISO or a head of information security? I mean, given your kind of technical background and with that aspiration, getting to that point, what advice have you got for others who might also want to be on the same path?
Claire, my passion was always information security. When I began my career as a network engineer, I realized very early when technology became pervasive in our day-to-day lives, information will become the most important asset that any organization needs to protect. Aspiring candidates need to understand that a CISO role is not primarily a technical role, as we just discussed. We need to be a big picture thinker. The role needs to be business focused, enabling the business to perform its function securely. The role needs to meet board expectations. And at the same time, the security teams need to be on top of the ever-changing threat landscape. For a large organization, there is also a requirement for the CISO to understand the regulatory landscape and its requirement. So that would be my advice. So you have to combine your technical skills with soft skills, with business acumen, and strong stakeholder relationship skills. And these, so I always had that in my mind because I always aspired to be a CISO one day.
It's a really interesting approach to understanding in your own mind that self-awareness of what skills you don't have and what you need to acquire. And then, you had the opportunity with a boss who was going to give you or grant you those opportunities to speak in front of those committees and those boards. And what role do you see in having a boss who is able to give you those opportunities? Are you kind of talking to them and saying, I want this, or are they just recognizing that you've got something in you that would allow you to shine in those circumstances?
I think it's, from my experience, it's both ways. So my boss I was really fortunate to have my previous boss in the previous organization who gave me this opportunity to start. The reason why I had the opportunity is because I was the most senior person in that organization managing both network and security. So it became an automatic choice for the boss to reach out to me. And also the boss knew that I was aspiring to be a CISO. The interest I had and the requirement the boss had really helped me in terms of developing the skills. Though I didn't have much coaching, it's just my coaching and my learning was always based on the feedback. When I write a report and I get a positive feedback and some commentary on how to change, and I learned on the job and the progress. As you mentioned, Claire, it just starts, you need to show that interest and the passion for it, and then the opportunities will come automatically. That's what happened in my case. The most important thing, especially for me, is you may have all the best laid out plans, you have the right intent, and you have the good organization to work for. But the most critical factor is your boss, the person whom you're reporting to. The boss and you have to really work and play together as a team. And you need to share your experience and knowledge in information security, and the boss needs to buy in with your vision. Your boss's support is extremely valuable in terms of seeking the budget, seeking the board's endorsement on strategy, and also investment and funding. So that's the first person you need to convince that how good you are as a CISO. Having a trust built between you and the boss is very, very important. And I would like to call out my current boss, Anna. She's extremely fantastic. Really fortunate to have her as my boss. And the progress I made in a very short time at UniSuper, full credit to her as well. I did the work, but support has been extraordinary from her side. She goes and bats for me in the board meetings and seek fundings, and sets the agenda out and helps us to achieve it. That's an important point which the aspiring CISOs need to understand. The person you report to needs to be on your side all the time.
So you were with Transurban, your previous company, for quite a number of years, and then you came over to UniSuper, and I guess you had to develop a strategy for them and plan out the team and the operating model. So I'm interested to understand, coming into a new organisation, what did you take into consideration when you were planning that new team and that new operating model in a brand new environment for you?
That's a good question, Claire. I'm sure some of the early insights you will also know how we started the journey at UniSuper. But for me, when I started at UniSuper, first thing I did was to assess the capability of the team, to identify the capability gaps. It's just about the team skills and their capabilities and their experience they had in the role. The second thing I did was to understand the organization's risks, the current business risks, and finally, the regulatory environment and its requirement. This is also the first time for me to work in a financial services organization, and there is a lot of learning for me too. Once I had the three pieces of information, the next step I took was to assess the security gaps. This helped me to come up with a 3-year security uplift plan, prioritizing on quick wins on the ones which had the largest security exposure. This information gave me a good, solid starting point on how to structure the information security team and the ensuing operating model. Also, I must call out the work you did, Claire, prior to my time. It was really instrumental to validate my thinking and fast-track the actions that I need to take to build the security function at UniSuper. Without your pre-work, it would definitely taken me a longer time. So thank you, Claire.
Oh, thank you. That was a shameless plug for my business. So you've set up you've got your strategy, you've done the hard thinking, you understand the capabilities and the capability gaps that are present for you right then.
Yep.
Then you move into obviously an opportunity to hire more staff into your team. What were sort of the key principles for you that, no matter who you were hiring, you wanted to have in place? Were they sort of values, or were they around particular backgrounds? What things did you have that you sort of held true in terms of your hiring principles?
Absolutely. For me, finding a candidate who is a cultural fit for the organization is far more important and valuable than the most impressive qualifications. You likely want to train them to some degree. So just focusing on past experience and qualifications may not be the right idea. Focusing the hiring approach around company values, as you mentioned, Claire, is more likely you find the right candidate than simply basing decisions on experience or qualifications. The second step I always consider is if the role requires technical competency, instead of just listening and reading about the candidate's experience, pose a real problem to solve in the interview. This way, you can very quickly assess the capability of the candidate. The steps and the thinking process, it's always instrumental into how you assess the candidate in terms of resolving a problem, because this will be a day-to-day occurring in his work life. Additionally, I extensively use my personal networks, which always help me. It's always useful to have some trusted members in the team whom you worked with you before. So that's what I did at UniSuper too. So when I started, I reached out to a couple of my ex-colleagues whom I trust, and I got them on board to build the team and start the journey. Once I have the two trusted lieutenants with you, the rest of the hiring process is all the steps I followed, which I just mentioned.
I love that term, trusted lieutenants. I think that having those people around you, knowing that no matter what, you know how they work, how they operate, it kind of gives you that sense of you've got kind of other eyes on the ground or other eyes on what's going on. And I know since COVID, it's really changed our world, but a lot of people are talking about how it's even harder and harder to find those trusted individuals, and whether you find them in your network or through a hiring process. What's your take on the fact that maybe people during COVID are not moving as much, or maybe the skills crisis, so to speak, has worsened?
Yeah, Claire. So I just, we went through the hiring process recently during this pandemic time. So I was recruiting for 2 roles during this pandemic period. Yes, it was definitely challenging, as the candidates do not want to take the risk of moving from stable organizations during this period, as we all know. What we did is we adopted a couple of methods. One is, as I always do, to extensively use my own network. I've been in the information security industry for 20 years or so, and the last 15 years as a leader. So I built a very good, solid network. I do, participate in conferences. I do go to the panels. So I just built up this network over time, which is very, very informational and very handy for me in terms of looking for the right candidates. So that helped. And the second thing, what we did is, in the absence of finding the right candidate through your own network, what we also did was advertising the role, promoting using the organization's brand and what it stands for and what the role itself entails. We need to promote and sell the role. Really, it's very, very important for people to apply for the role. They look at the organization, the brand, and what it stands for. Really, helps them to make the decision pretty quickly. The key highlight, for us is, to be clear. When we advertise, we want to be clear to the candidate, what this role and how this role will serve the organization's purpose. So that's what we did, and we made it really attractive for the candidates to apply. And fortunately, I've hired 2 staff using this method in the last months or so, and 2 excellent quality candidates. They're going to start with us pretty soon.
I think that comes back to the conversation we had, a few minutes ago around that cultural alignment and the value alignment. And so if you're going out to market and you're attracting people who are attracted to those values of UniSuper, it's not just about, the next security role. It's actually about the next security role working for Vijay in UniSuper. That whole package is something that would potentially attract someone who wasn't necessarily on the market in the first place.
Absolutely. Both of the candidates we hired, we just sent the contract through. They were not looking for a role. just because the network and the brand and what UniSuper stands for, how it looks after the retirement savings of our members, is a key selling point for us. So people understood the noble cause. We how UniSuper operates and looking after the retirement outcomes of our most professionals. It really helped to sell the message and get the right candidates.
So staying on the topic of finding great skills and hiring, how have you done things differently? And you've mentioned a few things there around, the way you've advertised and that you've really delved into your networks and that you try to meet a lot of people on a regular basis. Is there anything that you've done differently to source great hires for your team?
Yes, Claire, a couple of different methods. As a first step, being in information security for 15 years or so definitely enabled me, as I said to you before many times, to have a strong network. And I always use this for the fullest extent possible. As a second step, what we always have to think is, instead of looking externally for all roles, I've also recruited 3 or more roles internally within UniSuper from other departments. All I was looking for is a passion for information security and some technical skills. And the rest, I strongly believe, can be easily taught. So, so that's the great way to think about when you hire for candidates. Look for internally within the organization. I'm sure there will be people within your organization who have passion for security and wanted to make a break in that area. Not for a senior experienced role, but for the starting roles, this will be a good way to do it. And also for specialist skills like application security or security architecture, it's very hard to source them internally. So we definitely went through the agency route, and with strong interview process, we hired the best candidates. So in the hiring game, it's a combination of multiple methods to hire the best talent. Good networking, knowing the industry, and the strong interview skills always results in great hires, and it had really helped me. Agency route for really high specialized technical skills, looking internally for starting roles to give somebody an opportunity to start with information security, and also tap into your network for the roles which are hard to recruit and find.
Just picking up on one of your comments there around hiring internally, which I think is a really great way to grow more cybersecurity professionals and leaders, delving into the talent pool within your organisation and bringing those kind of entry-level staff over into security obviously places somewhat of a burden, which is probably not a fair word, but additional pressure on your team and on yourself, given that those staff don't have the security skills already and they might have some complementary skills. Did you find that you had to put in additional effort or you had to assign somebody to help those people to get up to speed? How did you help them make that transition?
So the areas I recruited internally is from the service center, the customer support area. The reason why I did that is we have a identity and access management domain which needs strong interaction with the rest of the business. So I thought this candidate would be an ideal candidate to help me achieve it. This person had technical skills because they deal with technology issues and resolving technical problems. And all that person needed is some coaching in how to operate the tool. That was very, very easy. It didn't take much time for us. And the skill that person had is absolutely fantastic. In terms of managing the stakeholders, difficult stakeholders, working under pressure, which comes when working from service center and customer service departments, really helped us, that person, to establish the information security role, and really helped us in the way, more than us giving the person the opportunity, it helped us greatly than the benefit that person had by joining in the information security team.
It's such a great opportunity, and I guess you've got the advantage of having a decent sized team that you're able to invite people within the organisation to have specialist roles such as identity and access management, and for those staff to upskill. And as you said, all they had to do was learn a tool and use their transferable skills. Correct. And it's brilliant.
Absolutely, it really worked for us well. And I did a couple of other roles as well. In the governance and risk space, and also in security operations. So I recently interviewed for a security engineer role. One of the network engineers applied. So it's just an easy transition for us because that person knew ins and out of the UniSuper organization. All we need to train him on the security tools.
Perfect. Vijay, you've been in the industry for a couple of decades. If you think back to when you were 20 years old and you were just embarking on university and your career, what advice do you wish you had, or what things do you wish you had have known back when you were 20 about building teams and leading teams that you would now say to your 20-year-old self?
So you're never going to figure out and having everything sorted out when you begin the journey of leading teams, right? So I always work in this principle, just tune to your gut and trust it. If I sense something and I feel like it, that's the way I think I always progressed. And if you have a passion for something, we all have to go in with your full heart and we have to love chasing it. That's all I've done. It'll never be easy, but pursue it, with all your heart and continue to learn from experiences and start building your network. A strong network becomes your extended support for future jobs or future hires, for the aspiring CISOs. These are some of the things that, it's good for them to understand and learn. Just follow your passion, follow your gut, and then build your strong network that will always help in the long run. Also, one other important thing that, I learned by experience is we have to, at some point in time, stop say yes for everything, right? To make others feel good, we say yes. But I think we need to say no, especially in this role. It's very, very important. And when you say no, we got to give solid explanation, justification, give them an option, and not just a blanket no. But saying the no word is also a very important skill that we need to learn in this role. And also, finally, just treat everyone with respect and with pace.
Well, Vijay, you have had an excellent career to date, and you've achieved some amazing things at UniSuper, rolling out the strategy, building a really strong team. And so, if that's your advice to your 20-year-old self, then there are many people that could take on that advice and achieve great things.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed the chat, and the advice you've had for the listeners has been brilliant. Vijay, many thanks. It's been a great opportunity to chat with you today. I'll put some details in the show notes about how people can contact you. Look forward to catching up soon. Thanks so much for joining me for today's episode. Feel free to listen to some of the previous guests on your favourite podcast app. For more information on all our guests, check out the show notes at thesecurecio.com, where you can also find more information on the Secure CIO framework, grab free chapters of my book, and sign up for my newsletter. If you love the show, please subscribe to the podcast and feel free to leave me a 5-star rating. I'll see you next week.